firstly, we saw you return last month to SmackDown, and I have to ask, what was it that made you come back to WWE?
Well, I think more than anything, WWE has always been a place that, I felt like I had some kind of unfinished business with.
Yeah.
And, for me as a kid, you look and you're like, I want to be a champion. There's so many things that you want to accomplish. And, coming back, I set my eyes on the SmackDown Women's Championship. And that's where I'm focused on the most, and seeing where that takes me, because after Bianca versus Sasha, I mean, who knows? Will it be Bianca that remains champion, or will it be Sasha? Either one, I'm coming after them, and I can't wait for that opportunity.
When you were away, did you think much about new things you could do in wrestling as far as like the Zelina Vega character, or did you like take time away from thinking about wrestling in general?
I had time for both. And, sometimes you do need that mental kind of break from, and it may not even just be for wrestling, it could be from anything.
Mm-hmm.
But, you kind of take your time, revitalize yourself, and get refreshed. And then you can kind of dive back into that creative side of you. And you're like, well, what can I do differently? Or how can I add, this style to my moveset? Or so there's a lot of things that you'll see now, whether that's like the kind of outfits, like I feel like I've taken especially my jackets, I've taken them to like a whole new level of like, just how intricate they are now, and what certain things mean, and who I'm kind of cosplaying and why I'm cosplaying them there's always a meaning as to who it is and why. And then just, feeling like I want to add some more striking to my moveset. I want to add more, because I never really got to, as a manager anyway, right? I never got to add too much of the lucha style to me, and now I can kind of display that, especially with people like Tony Storm, or with Bianca, or with Sasha. And it's gonna be cool to mix it up with them and see a whole new side of me.
Well, because you mentioned them there, I really did want to ask you about your outfits, because they are so incredible, especially the ones we've seen recently. One that I also really stands out for me was WrestleMania last year during the pandemic. Like, you came out just incredible. So obviously you're really into the cosplay, and what really influences you the most, and how hard are these to put together, and like, who do you work with on them?
So they're really difficult to put together, but I think because I enjoy it so much and I'm so passionate about who it is that I'm cosplaying, it makes it easy, especially because I have such a great team with me.
Mm-hmm.
So Jolene is someone that I work with on my gear, and she knows, okay, we want to change my gear up a bit. So it's no longer like the big circle here. It's like a cage almost. And then, adding the ZV on the side and kind of a cloud-like shape. It's actually, the cloud is from the Akatsuki from Naruto. So it's cool to add that little element there, because, that was their like their rogue ninja clan, right? So I've always felt that way about Zelina. Like, there's little things you can kind of tie into Zelina with whoever it is that I'm cosplaying. So then, even so, the Queen of the Damned look, for instance, like, I'm always trying to bring Aaliyah into, whether that's the outfits, the jackets, or whatever. And it's just because she's been an inspiration to me all my life. So it's either anime or video games or music. That's usually like the three things I go for.
I saw you retweet about Aaliyah recently. What is it about her that is so inspirational to you?
So I initially started listening to her with my aunt around like 5 years old. And I remember thinking like, wow, like she's really cool. She's got this like kind of jazzy sound. Like, it was very like, you can feel her vibe. Like, she always said, I got jazz mentality, like, no, jazz personality, G mentality. And I'm like, man, that's such a cool, like, I love that vibe. And she always talked about being, a hard worker, and if you love what you do, it's not really work. And she wanted to be remembered as someone who was a full-on entertainer and a good person. And I think that that's just so relatable. And you see her and like, wow, like, We Need a Resolution was probably one of my favorite videos ever, because it's just the visuals were insane. That's why I love snakes so much. I have snakes in a lot of things that I post on Instagram or videos. And it started from there, you know, because I was so young when I was watching her that it was just like, she had such an influence fashion wise on me too. So from the makeup to the outfits, it's just, she was so ahead of her time. And I sometimes wonder now, like, what would she be doing? Like, I see her on Beyonce level. Like, I can't imagine how big she would be at this point.
Absolutely. So on your return, we saw you immediately confront Liv Morgan and get into some beef there. Is Liv someone that you had really wanted to work with in the past and now got a chance to?
Yes, actually. Liv, and it's funny because being a manager, you never know whose path cross. And with Liv, I was like, man, I don't know if we'll ever get a chance to really cross paths. I hope we do, because, you know, I've seen her growth as a performer, and, you know, I was just like, man, I think we could really do something cool. And, you know, we hadn't have enough time. I think our matches are only like 3 minutes or something. But I think given the chance, with the crowd behind her, how they've been as a baby face, and then the crowd behind me, because they're like, man, we want to see what she can do. I just think that there's such a force to be reckoned with there.
So when you came back, it was Thunderdome, but then you got to be in Money in the Bank in front of the fans. So how was that experience for you? Not just being, you know, the Thunderdome ending and being back in front of fans, but then also having been away for so many months.
Yeah, it was cool. It was, I still say hearing the crowd react to my music playing was something I forget, because they just, and I've watched it a few times and I was like, man, I can't believe I'm like, they like me. That's, you know, I was very shocked, because it felt like, you know, a big welcome back hug from everybody. That's really what it felt like. And it's more so than anything, I feel like the crowd was so ready to see a different side, which is cool, because when I was choking Natty out on the ladder, and as soon as my hands touched the briefcase, they lost it. And I was like, I can't believe they care about it like that. It's really cool. So yeah, and it just makes me feel like they're craving more out of this character, and I really want to give that to them.
Yeah. Are you yourself more comfortable in the heel role? And did you ever have a thought of when you came back to maybe go more on the face side, because you would have so much support behind you?
Oh man, that's funny that you say that, because I love being heel. I don't know what it is. I think just because since I was a kid, I was a little instigator. I was just like, you know, such a little, but it's easy to me, like being a heel and just being like fiery New Yorker. It's just who I am, you know. So it's super easy for me to be comfortable in that role. But a part of me did think, okay, if they embrace me when I come back, maybe it's time to be a baby face. And they did. But I also feel like the way certain things played out storyline wise, the way that things went, I'll say, on TV, it wasn't they weren't ready for that. So hopefully one day we'll get to see that side of Zelina. It's going to be very different though, because I don't even know what she looks like yet. So we have to we got to explore that together.
You're so respected and admired as such a great talker, and I'm wondering where that comes from, and maybe who influenced you both as a manager and doing promos as a wrestler.
So I really loved, just like, okay, right, I'm small. That's no secret.
Me too.
So I've always had to have something. If you couldn't be, you know, the most powerful, you had to be quick-witted, and you just had to be quick in general. So either, you know, being teased in school or whatever it is, I always had something quick to come back with. And I think realizing that people around reacted to that, I think it started really young, where I was like, oh, I can hurt you more than you just physically hurt me. So I think it's just from a young age, I was like, okay, just got to be quick, just got to be, you know, on it and witty. But I've always loved Paul Heyman, loved Paul Heyman. And as a manager, I watched a lot of Paul and Vicky Guerrero and Melina and Sherry. So that really influenced Lena as a manager. But just a lot of like New Yorkers, and just I've taken influence from Nicki Minaj. Minaj. And it's funny because I always have to listen to her music before I go out. Before I go out, there's like a ritual that I do. And for at least 5 to 10 minutes, I'm listening to her and just going back to my roots, because we're both from Queens, you know, and it's like tapping into your home in a way. And, you know, people always say like, oh, sometimes she has an accent and sometimes she doesn't. It's because I try to talk, you know, pretty normal, but when I get mad, I can't help it and it comes out. So, yeah, it's stuff like that. Erica Mena from Love and Hip Hop. I mean, there's like so many people. I love like Eddie Kingston, I think is an amazing promo. And, you know, Homicide and Amazing Red, like those are just my crew when I was coming up. So it's cool that, you know, you get to pull those influences into who you are today.
So going back to when you were a manager, what was it like when that was broached to you, having been a wrestler? And did you almost feel like that you're doing like such a good job at it, but you wanted to wrestle, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's, I just remember Triple H telling me like, I know that you want to be a wrestler too, but right now I is this because you are so good at it. I need you to just help him and be with him, because this, I really see money with you too. And it wasn't something that I ever looked into. It wasn't something that I ever did before coming to NXT, honestly. But I fell in love with it. It was weird. I was like finding this whole new part of me as it was happening. So like a lot of people say like, oh, like, how did you prepare to be a manager? I didn't. I just was. You know, you just kind of like go out there and see what happens and be you. And, you know, if it works, it works. And for some reason in NXT, it was like lightning hit. Yeah. And I just felt like I'm just go out there, and until somebody tells me differently, I'm just going to be me. And it worked. So it's something that I absolutely fell in love with. And then I started to look further into, like I said, Paul Heyman and Sherry and Melina. And, you know, because Melina brought in that fiery side. Paul brought in more of the like witty side. Sherry was like the fiery, like kind of like screechy part of me whenever I started to really scream out there. Yeah. You know, and Becky obviously is just the heater. So it was a cool blend of people that I got to pick off of.
Was there ever any kind of like conflict when you were doing that role? Because NXT is just known for having such an amazing women's division, of just wanting to get in there and fight for that NXT Women's Championship.
Oh yeah. And I remember when I finally got to have a match with Candace, I was like, finally, like I've been wanting it so for so long. And we had some tag matches too. But it wasn't the same. And there's a bit of like sisterhood that you build with the girls once you start working with them, you know, and wrestling with them. And I feel like I didn't quite have that because I was a manager. So it was, you know, obviously I was cool with them. I was friends with them, but it's just a different level that you get on with these girls once you start working with them. And I always said that in NXT, Candace was like, you know, she was the good guys. She was the Lita and I was the Trish, but it just felt like we were just such a force back then. And it was really cool once we finally did it. And actually I remember Hunter was like, oh, so I know that you've been wanting to wrestle for a while, so you're going to be wrestling Candace tonight. And I was like, oh, cool. He's like, by the way, it's the main event. And I was like, oh, no pressure. And he goes, oh, yeah. And then you guys are moving up to SmackDown. And I was like, oh, my God. So it was a crazy thing all at once. But yeah, and I think it's amazing, especially with the girls I have now. Like, I love Io Shirai. I think she's amazing. And, you know, they have Ember back there and Dakota and, you know, Raquel. There's just such a cool blend of women there. So I watch and I keep up with all of my friends over there. So
one really cool mixed tag he did have was against Becky and Seth. What was that like, and how did that come about?
So that was interesting because Paul Heyman told me, hey, and he's like eating too, so he's like half like looking at me and half knows that I've been wanting a match for a while. So he was like, hey, so you're gonna have a match tomorrow. And I was like, oh, cool. Who's in it? And he's like, oh, no big deal. Just, you know, you and against Becky and Seth, no big deal. And I was like, what? You know, so it was very unexpected, but I remember thinking like, wow, okay, I really want to not only just be in there with them and, you know, see how that goes, but also just get myself in there, you know, because it's just, you're trying to live in two roles at once, and it's hard to do both managing and wrestling. But you know, I also realized I was like, well, I'm probably the only one that was doing that, because Paul couldn't do that. So it was an interesting time, but I loved that match. It was super fun. And I remember thinking, like, I'm about to hit a Hurricane Rana on Seth. That's pretty crazy. So
Did you find it hard to get the fans to accept you as a wrestler, especially when they just loved you and Andrade so much?
I still feel that way. I still feel like I'm constantly proving myself to them, and that's okay, because I want the moment that's, you know, going to be the, wow, okay, yeah, this is who, you know, she was supposed to be all along. Like, I want to have that moment. And whether that's, you know, a championship match against Bianca, whether that's against Sasha, or just a match that I can have time in and show what I can do, and really just who I am as Zelina, you know. So I think I'm always trying to prove myself, and there's going to be a moment where I get to go, okay, here you go, guys, this is who I am. And you know, it's going to be cool for the fans to also just see a different side.
Speaking of Bianca, you guys seem to have just some kind of magic together, and like, what's it been like working with her? And also, you know, I'll never forget, was it last year when she interrupted your Twitch and you did that angle? What's it been like picking up back with her?
It's been cool. It's been really cool, because she is someone that I respect her, not just as a wrestler, but as a person. Like, she's, you know, naturally gifted. And ever since I met her, like the first time I met her, I was like, she's going to be a star. 100%. I've said that to her since I met her. I was like, you're going to be like skyrocketing. Like, I just know it. And it was just her natural ability. It was her really gentle side at the same time. So it was cool to pick it back up with her, because I still felt like there was a lot of unfinished business. I mean, the last time I saw, I think I poisoned her husband. So, you know, can't imagine that she'd be stoked on me. But man, the Twitch stream thing, that was such a interesting time, because we had no idea it was going to blow up the way it did. Like, it was like trending for 3 days, and I was like, wow. So it was just a different thing. And I think that's what's cool about her and I, is that we're always trying to do something different. We're always trying to do something that is going to get people talking in a good way. And yeah, I'm looking forward to having more time with her, because the more I do spend in the ring with her, the more I'm realizing that we can just keep going and keep, because you think, oh, maybe we can't up it. No, we have been. So I'm looking forward to just having a real, like a good match with her again, because it just feels like it's a natural thing with her and I.
Out of all the women in the roster, you're probably the one that's done mixed tags the most then. So how much do you enjoy the mixed match challenge concept, and do you think that should return?
I definitely think that should return. I would love for that to return. Like, there's so many people that I would love to do that with. And, you know, whether that's Rey Mysterio, whether that's Randy Orton. I always felt like Randy and I have like similarities in our character, whether it's obviously because we're both snakes, but we just have this like way, and I can't even put it into words, but we're similar in ways. And I've always gone to him for advice, because you know, whether it's like how to take your time, how to fill in the gaps, how to move, like he just has a snake like way of moving. And I think that'd be cool. I mean, Jeff Hardy, I'd love to go up against, you know, I think that'd be really cool. So that's a really cool concept. And honestly, I'm all for mixed tags, and even like just getting that moment. Like there was a time where we had one against Sin Cara and Catalina, and it was cool that we had this moment where I did a moonsault. I was supposed to just land on him, but it was like he caught me and we turned it into a DDT, and people had not seen anything like that from me. Yeah. And they were like, whoa, we didn't even know that she can do that. And that's the thing that I strive to keep doing, is to keep proving them wrong and going, oh, wow, I didn't know she can do that. So, yeah.
I also wanted to ask you about your appearance in Fighting With My Family, especially now that Florence Pugh is such a huge star coming off Marvel. Just what was that experience like? And did you talk to AJ at all before playing her?
It was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. Like, I had so much fun with it. I felt like I was um, like living two dreams at once, you know? And, you know, because I fell in love with acting, because I was an actress before I was a wrestler. So it was cool to just do both. And I didn't get to speak to AJ prior, but afterwards, like, she was just saying the nicest things via Twitter. And you know, because people were sending her clips of it, and I was like, oh my God, I hope she likes it. Like, I hope she likes it. But she did, and she's like, wow. Like, one of the coolest things she said was like, you did amazing as me, and you played me awesome, but you're also the first you. And I think that's really cool, because it's like, I did my job as an actress, but now, obviously, starting up with WWE back in 2017, it's like, now it's my time to be me and pull that, you know, and just show that side, because it was a lot to train my voice to sound like hers. And a lot of people thought that it was a recording. It wasn't. It was just me, like, hours and hours trying to like get her pitch right and just, you know, follow her voice patterns, because she just had such a way of talking. And it was months of that. And randomly, Dwayne would be like, okay, cut the promo now. I'm like, oh God. So it was, you know, you had to be on your toes, and just, there was a cool way of, he would always say like, okay, talk to the people who knew her and try and see if you can put your brain, like, plug yourself into her, like, put yourself into her body as if it was a shell, and wear her skin. And what do you think she would do? And what do you think she would say? And how would she react to this? And he really, really helped me when it came to preparing for the role. Florence is amazing. I love her. She's been killing it. And it's cool that for someone that I knew, I feel like, I don't want to say like, oh, back when, but from fighting with my family till now, and she's still like just the sweetest person, just so humble. And you know, I've noticed things about her when it came to, obviously, like, taking on a role like being Paige is such a huge thing, because she's a legend. Like, she's accomplished so much. And you know, she was one of the most passionate people. So for Florence, she was like, I really, like, she would talk to me, she would talk to Paige, and just anyone who she could. And she tried to put as much of that passion that Paige had into the character. And she really cared about it. She was super respectful of WWE and the wrestling business in general. So she's just, I can't say more amazing things about her. Like, I love that girl.
And finally, now that you're back, what are the things that you would like to have achieved by the end of this year in WWE?
I think the main thing for me this year is to become SmackDown Women's Champion. And if that means, you know, whenever the draft is, if I'm on Raw, then it's becoming Raw Women's Champion. You know, it's just, that's something that I feel like I have to prove to myself, to the fans, and to WWE, and just go like, I'm ready for this. And, you know, I'm going to do it, whether people want it or not. Like, it's going to happen. And that's something that I've absolutely set my mind on. And I feel like anytime I have set my mind on something, I've pushed through. And, you know, people say like, oh, when I was like a kid, oh, she's too small, there's no way she's going to be a wrestler. Oh, she's too this, she's not going to be a wrestler. And I'm sitting here talking to you as Zelina Vega in WWE. So it's something that I really, really want to just, you know, like I said, prove to them. And also to represent for women my size, for, you know, Latinos around the world. Like, it's just I feel like I have so much on me right now that I need to do it. And I have so many people that I have to do it for also.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Zelina. I've really enjoyed talking to you. It's been great.
Thank you. Me too.